The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning to you. The birds are chirping.
Hey, no.
Good morning to you. The birds are chirping.
You could try and take us, but with the gladiators, everyone will reach you, but secretly the savior. Glory and gore go hand in hand. That's why we're making headlines.
The Eye Opener.
And I'ma get it, I know what I'm doing. Patience and the time, know what I'm doing, baby. Staring at it, I know what I'm doing. Staring at a gladiator, talking about a revolution. No, this is not a game. No, baby. I'm talking turnout. And I don't ever burn out.
And good morning. Welcome to the Eye Opener on this beautiful Saturday. It's actually quite cool today. I actually quite enjoy that. The sun is out, and there's a new day of opportunity. Good day to exercise. I know a lot of gyms are still open. A good day to go to the beach. If you haven't been early this morning, it's a beautiful morning to go take a jog, walk on the beach, or just jump in the water. Though some people might say they don't like the temperature of the water, but I think it helps you wake right up. Tate Adderley, are you still with me this morning?
Hey, Don, can you hear me?
Yes, it's clean and clear from Miami-Dade South, right?
Yes.
How's the weather up there, Tate?
Everything's okay. The sun isn't out as yet, but I
What?
can see the clear skies. And,
What do you mean the sun isn't out? Is it overcast?
Not really, no. It's just slightly overcast, but I can still see some pockets of clouds. No, sky.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Freeport's just really different. Well, if you believe in Freeport, then you already know these things. Tate, how's your week been, man?
My week has been okay. I think I'm starting to get like you. I'm starting to like just go through it quickly, and this is all just a blur, so you don't remember anything. But it's been okay. Nothing too stressful. I just came back from midterm break, and now we're about to go into the second half of the semester. It's about to get a bit stressful, but I think I can weather it. You?
This week has been this has been hell week for me. Oh man, it's been quite a dumpster fire. But yeah, it's been a lot of work. It's one of those weeks. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this at one point or another in their lives, right? One of those weeks where you do so much that it's not even that you don't even remember what you did. It's when you look back at it, you just say to yourself, "I did all that,"
Right.
and yeah. So no, this was one of those moments where I think back to. I wouldn't say a mentor, but an older gentleman that told me before. He didn't whisper. He said it quite boisterously that when you're young, you should work very hard, so that when you get older, you don't have to work as hard. And I tried for a good portion of still in my 20s, right? To basically live that adage that you work very hard and try to earn as much as you can and do as much as you can. So when you get older, you don't have to. And I think I've learned the lesson, Tate. That does not work. Hard work is for suckers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so the way to do things is to work smart. And that's something I've also been incorporating as well.
Right.
Because when you work hard, you become very reliable. And when you become very reliable, people rely on you. You become a crutch. And when you're a crutch, the instant that crutch breaks, things fall apart, which is never a good thing. You see that oftentimes with a lot of mom and pop shops, right? Where, let's say the father or mother of the business is known as the face of the business and they drive all the business activity. But the kids or the family members that work there or even the employees all basically revolve around that person. So if that person ever were to disappear, the entire business collapses with them, right? That's what happens when you build businesses around personalities rather than products, solutions, and concepts. And that's something I'm trying to incorporate in my life, and I think a lot of people should do. I wish our politics would move more in that direction, of away from personalities and more in the direction of principles, solutions.
Don, can you talk up again? Are you properly?
Oh, is my mic a bit low?
Yeah, bring it up a bit.
Producer, can you bring my mic up just a tad? I think, oh, there we go. Can you hear me better now, Tate?
Yeah, that's way better, yeah.
But yes, if you're just tuning in, welcome to the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something different. We've had a very confusing week. Last week as well, we ran a rerun due to some things and such and what's not. A lot of things have happened, everything from testicular heads to vaccines being promised to arrive and this didn't arrive. Tate, I dare say it was a, what's a good word? It was a teachable moment.
With the vaccine?
No, everything, man. It just
I agree.
It's like we're in hyper. I would say we're in overdrive. We're approaching hyperdrive in the political season as well, and it's I can't even know the word for it. It's just absurd. We had a car accident yesterday as well. If you're coming down Blue Hill Road, heading towards the intersection of Blue Hill and Tonique, if you look on your left-hand side before you reach that roundabout, you're going to see a gas station where someone decided. I don't know the circumstances when you saw the video.
Oh.
Yes.
That was near UB, right?
Yeah. No, not near UB. It's
No?
the intersection of Blue Hill and Tonique. So there's a Rubis on one side of that roundabout, and there's an
I know
Esso
what
on the
you mean
next.
now. I know what you mean.
Yes, and a car just plowed right into the side or the back side of another car and into a pump. Luckily, from what I can tell, no one lost their lives, which is excellent. I'm sure that there was a lot of there may be some injuries sustained. I didn't see much outside of that, but it just was one of those. I don't know what happened, right? Because it looked like the person was coming in with a good bit of speed.
Right.
I don't know if it was a situation of brake failure or just not paying attention, or if the person was under the influence. I don't know. All I can do is speculate. And I don't want to speculate too much on it. I just want to say to people, just be very, very cautious. If your car does not have good brakes, change your brakes. If you can't afford to change your brakes, avoid hills at all cost. If you drive standard shift and you're not very good at balancing a clutch on a hill, because I've seen an incident very recently where I moved out of the lane because I noticed this Honda kept going up and down on the hill. Like he's lurching forward, leaning back, lurching forward. And I realized the guy was driving a stick shift car, not very experienced, it seemed, because the balancing of the clutch can be very nerve-wracking when you're in traffic. I moved out of the lane. I guess foot slipped. I don't know what the situation is. Rammed right in the back, the front end of someone's car with the back end of his car. And I just said, wow, it's great. So be very careful on these roads. I think I've driven by in my short time last night trying to beat the curfew, probably 4 car accidents.
What?
Oh, it's almost like it's in a movie. Everybody's speeding up and down on the road. Some people drive as though they don't care because curfew is a social construct, right? And I do not know. It is a very, if you're in New Providence, it is a very bizarre hour right before curfew. That not even an hour, like between 9:45 and let's say 10:15, right, is where Bizarro Land begins. I don't even know if it begins and ends. I wasn't out that long, but it just was so like you see people speeding and racing on the road, like literally with motorbikes and ATVs. Then you see people breaking down and panicking in the road, and people trying to tow other people, and it's insanity, man. And it kind of reminded me because I hadn't actually been out close to the curfew in basically months. But the first time I remember when I got home late when we had that stupid curfew at 7 p.m. The insanity in traffic that I saw then, and the car accidents and this irresponsible driving as people are panicking, it was just I don't know, man. I don't even know the term for it. Do you guys even have that in Freeport as a problem?
You mean with traffic and crazy people?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that because that happened last night. But I didn't see any accidents last night. But it's usually on Friday nights people get a bit crazy and they get very fast, and so the roads are very much so packed. But in terms of accidents, yeah, they happen. But last night I didn't notice anyone was on the road. But it is crazy on Fridays, but it doesn't seem as though it's as crazy as Nassau. And I dare say that I think that Freeport drivers are actually worse drivers than Nassau drivers.
Oh, wow. I actually believe some of the worst drivers in the country are from Eleuthera, but that's my opinion. The 3 times I've been to Eleuthera, every single time I've seen different flipped over cars in different spots in the bush. Been because I mean it's one long road's kind of twisty and bendy. It could be kind of fun to drive, but I guess some people are speeding, lose control. I remember seeing it because I was driving in a bus with a group, and the bus driver pulled on the side of the road and ran out to go check, see if anybody was in one of the cars, which had literally flipped over on the beach. No one was in it, thankfully. I don't know if the person sustained any injuries because the car looked pretty mangled, upside down, and like literally the waves are brushing against it. And I asked him, "Is this a normal thing?" And he said, "Yes. Say every once in a while you do see flipped over cars because people be speeding." So, we've had traffic fatalities in Eleuthera before. I don't know how much people are going to listen when I say, please slow down, right? Because you could slow down by 10 miles an hour and live, or go over 10 miles an hour and die, and never listen to anything ever again because you're not going to exist. So I'm just saying, it's okay. Also, too, tomorrow, Tate, is supposed to be vaccine day, right? When we're supposed to be finally getting these vaccines in country. I know statements were made. I wanted to correct something I said week before last about Israel. I stated that 94% of the population in Israel was already vaccinated. That is actually untrue. I think that was in reference to the efficacy of the vaccine. I had mixed up the numbers. It's actually slightly over 50%. The numbers are still increasing, which is why pockets of Israel are relaxing restrictions. Again, I want people to pay close attention to what's happening there. Also too, I don't know if you remember, Tate, that I was saying that there was someone I wanted to bring on who dealt with one of the vaccines. So yes, that's still in the works. We'll see how that turns out. Try to meet up with people's schedules. He was actually working on the AstraZeneca vaccine, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. So I'm working on it. It is beyond challenging because it seems as if people are in demand, and also, when you work in that kind of industry, your time is not always your own, right? But yes, oh man, it's been crazy. I've seen the I don't know if the word is distractions, Tate, or just like, what is the word? What is happening in the political sphere? I don't know what the word is to describe it.
So I don't know. I think it was somebody who talked about the invisible hand of capitalism, right? And for me, I just call them the forces. The forces
the
are
spirits,
right? So essentially, basically, I think that this election season is I don't want to say as similar, but it has some similarities as to the last one. I'm noticing some things, right? And for sure, I just call them the forces, and I can't explain it, but it's like I've been noticing some things. We've seen things like such as people being resigning. Different scandal stories coming out. So it's all weird to me. So it's like all this has been saved up just for this time. So yeah.
It is. Well, I wouldn't say they're bizarre. First, I thought they were bizarre. Then I got some inside information on some things, and I was like, "All right, that's not making things better." But okay. What's really happening? Well, ignoring the resignations in cabinet within the confines of this current government, people saying, "Oh, the government's imploding." If we were to honestly have a chart up of everybody that's ever resigned from a cabinet position within the last 20 years, I think we'd have about, let me think about it, be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say about 10. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be around about just under 10 that I can think of off the top of my head.
In this administration?
No. I meant in the last 20 years. Maybe just over, just under 10. And they always happen in very key moments, right? Because I think you even had, the former FNL administration, and the Ingram administration, I should say, also had a resignation, and the at the time deputy prime minister saying he wasn't running again. But
right.
He's obviously in the House now. Okay, strange. Also, the fight, Tate, about the messy fight that's going on within the Progressive Liberal Party in reference to the nomination situation. It's almost like nominations are like contracts now, don't you think, Tate? Like everybody's fighting for one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't it's so bizarre to me to see this, because the display that I'm seeing isn't people say it's democracy at work, but I don't agree. Like, I mean, of course, internal party politics and things will play itself out. It always will. It always has. Those are what you call, like you say, take the forces. But like, I'm not seeing this as really democracy on display for the country. It's more like there's blood in the water. There's very obvious signs, as we've seen in the last 4 cycles of our elections, that there is an obliteration about to take place again. Well, let me not say that. Let me not make that a factual, not factual. Let me not make that an absolute statement. It would seem as though, right? I'm seeing a lot of the signs and symptoms I've seen before, Tate, and a lot of hopefuls then fight and vie for positions because they want to align themselves with the right party that's going to take over. Which at the moment it seems that the Progressive Party is poised to do so. And then you'll see a lot of squabbling because everybody wants a seat, because everybody, wants that cabinet position. They want that sweet, sweet goodness.
A nice salary, man.
Oh, well, not even a salary. It's like I say, it's all about the race of the treasury, right?
Yeah.
Who has control of the treasury has control of the country. And it isn't so much about passing laws and such. That's a byproduct of what reality is in this country. So when I see it, I don't see democracy, but I just see the next set of. I can't use that word. Let me find a good word, Tate. Give me a second. Let's say the next set of beneficiaries, okay, of our political economic system.
So, when you say obliteration, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like the complete removal of the FNM from the administration?
It's going to be a landslide, right? Because we've had landslide
so?
after landslide after landslide, and obviously the degrees of landslide, when I use that term, varies. Because what happened last election cycle, I don't think is going to happen this one.
No, it's not. I don't think so either. But I don't know. I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like this administration will pull it off, but by a very slim margin.
But you would want that. Not necessarily want them to win, but you don't want a party to have a super mega majority like they have now, where there's literally 4 people. There's more now, right? Because some people split it off in the party. But initially, it was 4 people in opposition. Like, that opposition can't do anything. Like, you're not negotiating anything. All you're doing is just stand up making a speech for cameras, and that's basically it. Like, everything that you say is moot. You have no power, basically, unless people dissent from within the party. And if you're talking, like, literally 39 seats and you only got 4 and, like, 35 people against you, I mean, like, what you doing? Now, if you have a more even split and there's different, like, caucuses within the confines of House Assembly, then you start to see, like, some negotiating happening, right? And then you have more of a healthy form of government, I would hope. But I don't know how possible that is either, Tate, because oftentimes, the issues we have is, like, the cabinet. What's it called? Gussie May cabinets, where half the damn legislatures in the cabinet, right? So who hold who accountable?
So, also something I wanted to say earlier was the fact that there's a part of me that thinks that maybe we'll see a third party get into the House. I don't know about that.
No.
You don't think so at all?
No. Unless it's the Kingdom Government movement. I can't see anybody else getting in there, Tate.
So you don't see people like Bahamian Evolution getting in at all?
I being honest, I'm being fair, right? I don't see the DNA getting a seat. Unless something happens, like the way that things are going now, because I don't hear much about them. It's not that I would. I'm not saying that I wouldn't vote for them or I would vote for anybody. I think I said it last time, and I wish I did, but this time I can't see myself voting. And I know people get upset at me saying that, but like, anyway, that's enough about that. But I cannot see it at the moment. The current landscape isn't, because you got to make way for yourself, man. You got to make yourself visible. Like, what people are looking for is solutions and promises, right? Even though they say promises are comfort to a fool, it's also your political party tricks, right? That's what you do. You make some promises, you deliver on some of them, and then closer to the election, the next election, you try to deliver on more of them, so it's fresher in people's minds. That's when you start, digging and laying pipes in Long Island when you could have been doing that a long time, or you start doing stuff in Cat Island trying to get somebody out of Cat Island.
Right.
Or you basically let certain islands crash and burn. Like, I don't know what's going on Eleuthera. And then like you try to speed up things in Abaco.
Right.
So there's a lot of malarkey, alleged malarkey. I got to use that word happening, but like, it is what it is. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Tate. I feel like there's a lot of misdirection taking place. If I were a opposition party, right? If I were a party vying for office, one of the first things I would do, and this ties into something I want to talk about too, is I would tell and encourage Bahamians to take the vaccine. I know that sounds crazy, but the numbers and the statistics that are coming out and all the data points that we're seeing and the case studies are showing that it's working. It isn't going to necessarily prevent. It's going to prevent the virus in everybody. It's supposed to prevent the seriousness of these cases, prevent deaths, slow down transmission massively, and eventually bring us to a point where we're getting to normal again. It is a low-hanging fruit for an opposition party to encourage citizens to get vaccinated. It's a low-hanging fruit for them to present facts on it. Right, a lot of them have been very coy about the issue. Not even in opposition, just even members of parliament, very coy, silent. Absolutely, some have expressed skepticism. I saw Dwayne Sands express skepticism, and now he's encouraging persons to take it. I can't see why you wouldn't. Right, if you even look at what's happening around the world, not every country. Some countries, like you mentioned with Tanzania, where the leader of the country is saying,
"Idiot! Oh my God!"
Yeah, she's saying thoughts and prayers are going to. Basically fix the situation with the pandemic there. And let me tell you how serious it is, right? How stupid, and I'm going to use the word stupid, how stupid that situation is they stopped reporting COVID-19 cases.
In April.
Yes. Their numbers exploded. Their hospitals are extraordinarily overflowing. The deaths, I think they're underreporting death. This is all being reported in the public sphere. I'm not making any of this up. It is a show of fecal matter. It's the best way I can put it down there. Several African countries are experiencing the same thing, Tate, and it's like that's not the way to go about things, man.
Right.
And a lot of conspiracies are out there. I just the part I just don't get. Right. The point about being a salesman, because that's what you do when you're in politics, is you sell people a solution, Tate. The problem is now people are skeptical of the vaccines, understandably. So sell the solution and show the facts and data about it to say it's not bad, it's good, and it's an easy win politically, and I just don't understand why no one's taking it. And it's
sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
So. Here's why I think an opposition party may not support that. I mean, I'm thinking back to the gender referendum of 2016, 2014, and 2002, right? Where clearly these things would have made Bahamian society way much more better. But just for the sake of opposition, certain parties oppose the referendum. So we have Perry opposing the referendum in 2002, although it would have progressed the Bahamas. And then we have other parties, like in 2014 and 2016, just opposing for opposing sake. Because if you oppose, it makes it seem like you're an enemy against the government. And I don't know, I think that public sentiment against F numbers are at an all-time high right now. And if you were cynical, it may make more sense, or it may seem more rewarding if you just oppose the government on it and try to sow public mistrust. But I'm just being cynical now. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing, right? It's a double-edged sword because I think there is low public trust in institutions in the Bahamas. You don't need to pretend as if that isn't the case. People oftentimes are skeptical of anything government says about anything. And sometimes I think rightfully so. Sometimes I don't understand the logic of it, so I can't comment on that. But I think it's, like I said, it's a low-hanging fruit. You want to engender and build public trust in institutions and you as a party, right? Because you're a party, you're presenting the solution, which is your leadership to the country. I don't know, Tate. I can't say that I know the thought process of some of the parties that just say nothing about it. Or if they say anything, it's like in passing to someone, but it's not really something they go on the record saying, or it's just a statement they just pass off to the press, and it's like whatever. No, I don't know. I don't think the objective, like I said, is to build public trust in the first place, Tate. And that goes to show you what power mechanisms are at play. If you read Rules for Rulers or Dictator's Handbook, man, it's not depressing. It just I'm just befuddled a bit by it. You know, I don't know, man. Whatever. It's just ridiculous to me. But and then the next thing about it too, right? When you look at when he talked about the promises earlier, right? When they make these, you get the low hanging fruit. You make promises on, which are easy things to fulfill. Like remember last election cycle, where promises were made about an election date, Tate.
Right. Yeah.
And you see, we're still trying to figure when the election is happening. One of the things that they harped on about was they were going to come into power, and once they get in the House of Assembly, one of the first things they're going to do, one, is set term limits, right? Hold a recall system for MPs, etc. Never saw any of that. We're supposed to have fixed election dates. Never saw any of that. We're supposed to address the issues highlighted by the referendum by passing laws. I don't know what's happening with any of that. But right now, it's like, the truth was a better way of me saying this. If you're expecting reform and change and just anything different from what you've been getting for the last, how long have we been independent now, Tate? 47, 48 years?
Well, yeah, around the range.
Yeah, if you're expecting anything, almost 50 years. Almost 50
Yeah.
years. If you're expecting anything different from that, you're sadly mistaken. It's not going to happen. These parties are wholly incapable of changing. There's no reason, there's no incentive for them to change. It's literally a case of, you're going to blow me out of office after my term is over. You're going to get mad at the guys you blew me out of office for, and then you're going to blow them out of office and put me back in.
Right.
That is almost a guarantee at this point. It is just a seesaw, and with that being the case, the complaints that are being levied, including this administration and the current opposition party, the Progressive Party, I think are sensible. They don't mean anything. I think is the best way to put it. It's worthless. Nothing's going to change. There's no incentives, no mechanisms at all to bring about anything. So
Yeah, so I wanted to mention, and I think it's clear we can see that in the campaigns. I was watching Beyond the Headlines, I think sometime this week, and it was an interview or a debate between one person who's from the F and one person from the PLP. And looking at the campaigns, I noted that what this current administration is doing is trying to convince the Bahamian people that they've actually done something. Like, I get it, right? You've done initiatives. But at the same time, we have things like Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic that resonates heavily within their minds. And I think those events kind of showed the incompetence of this administration, as well as that if you look at their track record, right, look at what they've done in legislation, and it's absolutely nothing. And now, because election season is coming up, now we're seeing stuff like new bills coming along when this is something that they could have done way before election season. And so what I'm saying is with the PLP is that, I don't know, it's just like they're taking a very empathetic approach and a little bit of the 2017 approach, trying to paint the FNM as corrupt and a party that cannot govern. And so what I see essentially is I don't want to say switching, but somewhat of a switching of last election. So, essentially it shows that it's just more of the same. And I'm starting to see, where you're getting the idea of a flip-flop from, because, like, they've shown that they have not changed in these past 5 years at all.
When you talk about the legislative thing, it's I would even say it's a double-edged sword. It's like a butter knife. On one side, it's kind of sharp. The next side, very dull. Like, it's kind of sharpy, but kind of dull. Like, if you press it too hard on your skin, it may cut. But why I say this because, remember, we had the Commercial Enterprises Bill. We supposed to be having the Public Procurement Act, right? Where every major contract or contracts in general is all supposed to be available online. I should be able to see as a citizen who's spending money where, which direction the fundages are going in, No, 1 second. Oh, Lord. All right, I'll figure that out. Yeah, so yeah, see the direction the fundages are going in. Funds. I don't know, I say fundages for some reason, right? I don't know why I do that. Anyway, yeah, see the direction the funds are going in. And what else did they propose now? Several other pieces of legislation they didn't put up, period.
Right.
A lot of promises, like I said, were made. A good bit of good legislation. Remember, we were supposed to have the what's it called again? The Freedom of Information Act, right? And there was some things they were doing initially to prep for that. Remember that we had the whole thing with the National Intelligence Agency, which they dismantled, which was under the Progressive Party because they said that there was no judicial or legislative oversight of it, and that it's supposedly just reported to the Prime Minister, and that's the end of that. And they wanted to bring forth legislation before they bring this thing back. I have heard murmurings that since some things have been revived with that, whatever. We were supposed to make some changes and amendments to the criminal justice system, right? With some of the sentencing laws. So if you paid attention to the news in the last 2 weeks, you saw we had a case earlier where a bus driver, had groped a 14-year-old girl and got a $200 fine for doing it. But yet someone gets fined $800 for selling coconut water on the side of the road. Yet in this country, I can't use the word, right? But you can kill another human being. You can kill two of them while under the influence of alcohol while driving at night. I'd pay a $10,000 fine for someone's life. So in the Bahamas, if you are if you are a minor and you get groped by an adult, that is worth $200 to the system. If you sell coconut water on the side of the road, it is worth $800 to the system. If you die in a drunk driving incident, you are worth $10,000 to the system, and that is the end of your life.
So I want to know two things that were very strange in those incidents, right? And I was watching the interview that Clint Watson did on the headlines, and he interviewed the father of the girl. And I found out that the father found out about the sentencing online. So it was like he wasn't given notice that the person who was guilty of the crime was going to be sentenced. And then another thing is that given that car accident, right, and that incident, I just feel as though like they were protecting the guy for like a while. And it was a while until we actually got his name. But for a time in the newspapers and in the coverage, we didn't know who the person was. And maybe like a month or maybe like 3 weeks later, we finally found out his name, and then we found out that he got a $10,000 fine. So I just think that all that is just very strange to me. I don't know.
Well, also the incident where we had with the I don't know if the guy was an influence or not, but the mother and father that was killed in a traffic accident, and then the children, I think they had two daughters, were orphaned. We had a similar situation, and some of these issues, right? Like I'm not laying all this at the feet of this current administration, right? But some of these things that they pledged when they were in opposition to address these things, like some of these things just need to change, right? It just didn't happen, and the unfortunate, I don't know, man. The unfortunate reality is that it's not going to change. No, like these are really low hanging fruit. These are things you can address just through legislation. I think the Bahamas should have a much harder stance. But then the problem is you need the resources as well to lock people up. Police officers need resources. I think maybe I'm wrong in this, but I stand by my belief in this. I think the enforcement of these curfews has been poor because police don't have all the resources they need. Crime has obviously saw an uptick. We had a 4-person shooting last night. I think one person also lost their life. I think 4 women were shot last night. When I was driving on the road, I didn't see a single police officer. And I'm not saying this as if I want the police to always be on this for curfew. I think it's just a waste of resources at this point. To basically try to, because I remember how strict things were in the beginning, and then how slowly that faded out as police resources got stretched thinner and thinner and thinner. Some things are just nonsensical to me. Let me read one of these texts. This is going back a bit to something I said about the vaccines. You can text them just like this person did at 422-4796. That's 422-GR96. This person says, no, Don, you're wrong. People have built up so much mistrust of Bill Gates and the vaccines that any huge push, anybody pushing it will be dealt a big blow. I think that what they're trying to say is anybody pushing the vaccine at this point will suffer politically because of it. Yeah. I partially agree. I do agree that Bahamians are, not even just Bahamians, people all around the world are extraordinarily skeptical. I don't know, man. It seems such a difficult thing because the facts don't line up with the conspiracy, right? We've heard conspiracies from 5G towers to tracking devices in it. Oh man, I think we have a guest on. We'll see if we can get him in. A lot of things happening at the same time, right? Steven, are you there? Can he unmute himself? Steven, can you hear us? Let's see if we can get him on. Tate, you still there, right?
I'm still there, yeah.
All right, Steven, whenever you get a chance, just unmute yourself.
I did.
Oh, wow. The great Steven Hanna.
Hey, what's up?
Why do you sound so tired, Steven?
It's Saturday morning.
It's the best time to be alive, Saturday morning. Steven, I have a question for you. Let's dig into a little of this, right? I only have a little bit of time. Do you think if any party in the confines of the Bahamas were to push that Bahamians should take the vaccine, do you think that they will be punished?
Political party.
They said political party, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just making sure.
Oh, yes, political party. Do you think any of them would be punished if they push Bahamians to take this AstraZeneca vaccine?
By whom?
The people. Do you think Bahamians would mistrust them and probably not support their candidates if they were pushing that?
No, I mean, some people will be like, how could you? But generally speaking, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Tate, what do you think?
And the reason is because they're going to take it.
That's it? So your answer is just no? All right.
No, because like they're going to be the ones taking it. The PLP, the FNM, the DNA, the other things, right? Like none of them are going to be like, oh, I reject this vaccine outright if it's offered to them. So it's like it would, at the end of the day, it will come down to the religious beliefs. And when I say religious belief, I mean like how much do the party supporters worship their party leaders, right? In terms of whether or not they turn their back on the party, because they might not believe in the vaccine, but then they really, really, really believe in their leader. And so if their leader takes it, then they like suddenly have that cognitive dissonance thing going on where they gotta like, do I address this or do I just overlook this?
So you think? Do you think that the smart strategy for a party? This is my position. I think a smart strategy would be for a party to take up the stance, Bahamians should take the vaccine. Do you think that's a smart idea?
I mean, that's what the FNM is doing, right?
I kind of like wishy-washy on it. Kind of wishy-washy.
No, I mean, no, because then SANS has now
Come out and support, yes.
Right? And then Minnis and Wells are constantly saying, we are going to take it, we are going to take it. And that's 50 of no FNM candidates there. So
okay, Cat, disagree with you on that. Yeah, the profile isn't the largest. Yeah.
There's no way. Yeah, and Philip Davis isn't going to reject it, because he had COVID and then his daughter.
Yes. Yes.
Is a doctor, and I feel like he's going to use all that stuff as a part of his background story. He's borrowing a lot from previous prime ministers.
His grandparents were from Cat Island, and subsistence farmers from Cat Island.
Right? Yeah, my father was a taxi driver. My mother was a nurse. You've heard this story before.
Oh yes, Christy. Listen, Christy was an excellent speaker, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me not say he was good. He was good enough. Sometimes if he put out a script to the media, don't go by it because he's not going to follow it. We have some more text that came in, and something I wanted to say too about it. I personally don't think a party would be punished too badly. It seems in the Bahamas we forgive people for cheating on their wives, from stealing from the treasury, from getting contracts and shingles illegally, from embezzlement of public funds, and we still elect them.
Right.
We have in the past in this country elected people that have been alleged to be involved in the drug trade and moving cocaine through the borders of this country. Have been implicitly involved. We've had persons in House of Assembly who've been alleged to be involved in human trafficking, and we still put them in the House of Assembly. We've had persons who resigned from cabinet positions in the past due to impropriety, due to conflicts of interest, due to you can't be in this position. Well, that's a conflict of interest. You get in these major contracts, and you sit at the table in which influences you of being able to get them. And we forgive all those things. But to say then that if you push this, if you support something for the healthcare of Bahamians, that therefore Bahamians won't like you anymore, I don't know. It sounds a bit absurd to me. I get the emotions behind it. Like, I understand the skepticism, but I just don't feel as though.
Measure it.
Yeah.
What you got to do is measure it. And so the measurement is there are people who believe that outright, and they're convinced of that, and there's nothing you can do to convince them otherwise, right? But as with any belief, right, the true hardcore extremist believers are a minority. You have people who kind of believe it, and then after that, you have people who they don't know exactly, they don't know enough about it. It doesn't affect their day-to-day life, so it could go either way. Then you have people who do not believe it at all. Like, the spectrum is very vast. Now, if the people who swear that they know this vaccine is a way to get a microchip inside them was 60% of the electorate, then no political party would even talk about a vaccine.
Yeah.
However, it's probably less than 1% of the people in the country who are saying that. The rest of the people are, you have some people who say that could be true. I don't know if that's true. I don't know or care either way. And then the people who are like, oh, all of that is a lie at varying degrees.
Oh, and here's the thing about the microchip theory, right? About tracking people via vaccines and microchips and these injections. The biggest and easiest way, not the biggest, but the most important microchip that's on you is your phone. If your phone doesn't have data, you're not connected to the internet. If you download Google Maps, if you just open Google Maps while you have internet connection and then disconnect, it still GPS tracks you. It still shows you your current location, even though you do not have an internet connection. Even if you're not even connected to a cell tower or you're on the network. Because I noticed this when I was in Europe. I turned it off. It still silently connects to towers next to you to track your location. Just saying. So if
dead. Like, you to take the battery out.
Yes, literally.
The new ones don't allow you to do that.
No, because there's a chip in it that also keeps the time as well as your geolocation within the phone that drains.
Right.
It sips just ever so much battery. So even if your phone is dead,
Well,
it still does it.
It's not. It's when your phone says 0%, it's still like 10%. But the way, apparently, somebody explained this to me last week. Lithium-ion batteries, if you let them go to zero, they will never hold the same amount of charge ever again.
That is true.
So
Yes.
the battery just degrades and degrades.
I've learned that my iPhone's on 83% battery health. If you let it go below 30%, actually, you're killing your battery. Never let it go below 30% because it causes cracks in the battery.
Right. So when your battery is turning off, it's not that there's no power in it. It's just that for the safety of the phone,
Yes.
we're cutting off everything else.
Yes, except the thing that tracks you. Let's read some of the
Right,
text.
exactly.
Let's read some of the thing in the text. Someone says the facts don't support the conspiracy and it doesn't support what was done. I don't know what they mean by what was done. Please elaborate a bit if you can, Texter. Someone else texted in. People have in their minds that the politicians who say they will take it publicly that isn't really the vaccine in the syringe. Not saying that they would demonize it, but they won't push it massively. One another related conspiracy theory. I love conspiracy theory topics. Go right ahead, Texter. We could discuss it. I think to be honest though, Steven. I think to be honest, like I said, Tate, you can disagree with me if you want. I think the Bahamian electorate is incredibly forgiving. We forgive anything. I think the only thing we wouldn't forgive. I think a politician can murder somebody and get off on the case and probably still get elected.
When we get off the air, I'll discuss something with you.
Sure. Well, we've had persons. I can't say this one because I'll get sued. So I can't say that one. But we've had persons who've allegedly done some egregious things, and
Right.
and they were still elected in the House, still highly respected. despite they had a case. And anyway, whatever. So I don't think Bahamians are as merciless as we like to think they are. Bahamians are very kind-hearted people, and sometimes that's used against us politically. But, whatever. You were saying something,
Yeah.
Tate?
No, I agree. I mean, looking back at the 1987 election, right? The FNM had expected for Penland to lose.
Yes.
And because, of his the drug charges against him and the commission's inquiry, right? And even up until his last 2 years in office, although the FNM won the 1992 election, Penland was still in the House of Assembly.
Yep.
So I kind of agree. They're very forgiving people, and they are also forgetful as well. Yeah.
Also loyal.
Yeah.
It's different things at play. So
We're more
trauma
loyal to the
affects different people
politicians than we
differently.
are to our spouses in this country. But anyway, continue, Stephen.
No, I'm saying trauma affects different people differently. So some people, they get abused and they will never, ever, ever, ever allow somebody to do that specific thing to them again. And then you end up swinging all the way to the left, right? So you have those people who are like, they felt so traumatized by the PLP, or they've heard these horrible stories about the PLP in the 70s and the 80s, how Loftus-Roka arrested Annie because she didn't look like a Haitian, and all this stuff, right? I've met people who happen to be from Long Island, right, who have complained about their distaste, and specifically this person was too young to even remember Pinling being alive. So I don't know how they remember Loftus-Roka.
Oh.
But they had this learned bitterness towards him, and that's why they were F&M, all right? Then you have the people who are like, all right, this person wasn't perfect, but they gave my Grammy money when she needed it. And it was only $800, and it was literally 40 years ago. But your Grammy say to vote for this person. And so there's a level of loyalty despite whatever trauma and abuse that you
I know of people whose parents have told them to vote certain ways, and they did. And like the whole
right. And then there are also people who are like, I can kick you out of this house if you vote F&M.
I don't know how they can find out, but like, yeah, but I've heard that from friends too. Yes, it's real.
And they are very afraid, and they don't know what to do. They're like, I don't want to vote.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that they can't find out. Because something very interesting I noticed when I was a child. Can I say this? I guess I can, right? We were campaigning, or we were volunteering and campaigning. We campaigned for both parties. We used to live in a neighborhood that kind of was flip-floppy, which used to be Delaport, right? Now that's Killarney, and they chopped up the boundaries again last election cycle. So like the neighborhood that I was in is now a part of Chippingham, which kind of makes no sense because it's on Cable Beach. But whatever. So
well, the point of that is to, I mean, it's gerrymandering.
Yeah, no, it is. But what I was getting at was like I noticed that when we did, because like I said, for both parties, the neighborhood, like I said, was like sometimes they support this party, sometimes they support. It was whoever's advancing the agenda of fixing drainage in the neighborhood. And eventually, I think Neville Wisdom addressed it somewhat, and then he had failings in other areas, and then it just blew him on office, and then obviously what happened. But what ended up happening, what I was getting at, oh Lord, I'm having a brain fart. Someone just texted in. I'm not going to read that one. I can't. That one's a bit too spicy. But yeah, what ended up happening with the whole situation is I noticed they had a register to see which household voted in which direction. And I asked, possible if we're supposed to have secret ballots for you all to know this information. I was never told. And I noticed that both sides at different times, because it was obviously not the same election cycle, had these registers to say which household and names of persons who lived in the household who voted what in the previous election. So this idea to me of this secret, I don't know how they know this, right? I know what I saw. And I asked other older persons, like, yeah, man, that was always the case, man. But no one ever wants to explain to me how that's possible. Because I thought that...
well, I think that it's a thing of, like, there are polling divisions and people are registered in different polling divisions. It's easy to get a breakdown if you have any loyal members in that area, right? And so it's like if so like let's say Garden Hills. If Garden Hills number 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
So if I live in Garden Hills number 1, that is not 5,000 people. That might be 1,000 people, 2,000 people, right?
Right.
Then we break them up into polling divisions, right? And in the polling divisions now we have them in the hundreds. But I know for a fact that there's one portion of Garden Hills number 1 where it's like these people don't hide the fact that they F and M. Like when I was a child, they used to paint their house red and keep all sorts of F and M posters on the coconut trees, on the walls of the house, all sorts of things, right? So it's like this is no secret that these people are very, very aligned with that.
That sounds very insane to me.
During the last election cycle, that whole polling division got put into Angliston, I think.
What?
Like they got cut out. Right, like it was weird. They started cutting out these weird places because they're like, okay, we're gonna take some of these heavy hitters from this area and put them in a shore bet in a place like Angliston or.
But that didn't happen.
Because we know that we could win.
That didn't happen exactly. Well, it wasn't the same where people was like staunchly one party. I lived in the same neighborhood as Hubert Ingram, right? Like you could drive down the road to Hubert Ingram house. So it's like it was so bizarre watching that chunk of that neighborhood just go in. Anyway, whatever. Gerrymandering, it's terrible. We have a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes. Good morning.
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 Let me ask you: are you all going to take the vaccine?
Am I going to take it? Yes. Stephen, take?
I'm taking it.
Yeah, man. Why not?
Well, I'm not going to take it.
If I could take it next week, I would.
Pardon, sir?
I'm 65 and I'm not going to take it.
Okay.
Because I don't hear none of the medical folks here, none of them talking about keeping the immune system strong. And that's the key. If you take your moringa, your ginger, your turmeric, your fever grass tea, your pear leaf tea, your guava leaf tea, your soursop tea, all of those things to build the immune system. Then when you take the turmeric, you have to put black pepper in it because biotin, it helps it absorb quicker into the body. And so once you do those things, and also if you go in the stay with a lot of crowds, you take a steam bath, put some peppermint, you boil your water, put some peppermint in, put a towel over your head, and just breathe that heat, from the steam, but it stays in the nostril and in the throat, so that kills the virus. But none of the medical authorities here are telling you nothing about keeping the immune system strong.
I mean, that's not true though, but because they've been saying that from the very beginning.
The authorities here, you got to go.
If you are healthier,
but that's people who I'm talking about from the Ministry of Health. I hear nobody saying that.
When Dr. Sands was in charge, I know for certain Dr. Sands spoke about that all the time. When he was the Minister of Health, and I'm certain that I know what's the name of the lady who was always on the White Show, who was in charge of HIV AIDS Center.
Camille Barnett,
the infectious diseases lady.
No,
not
Camille Barnett.
But you need to hear about it more.
The doctor who's in Nikia Forbes.
That's Nikia Forbes. Yeah,
she's always talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. But Nikia Forbes is always talking about that. Right? Like there are people who are talking about it, and the other thing is, why not do both? No one's telling you that you only can take the vaccine and you can't be healthy. You could be healthy and take the vaccine.
But let me ask this another question. Okay, it's for 3 different vaccines. Okay, the Pfizer you have to take 2. That's if you miss the second one. Could you take the Johnson or the Anderson or whatever that? Could you take that along with that, or you have to take the same?
I know that they were looking into it. I
saw some studies also saying that if you delay the second one, it supposedly increases the effectiveness of the vaccine. Like I said, I have been trying to get this lady.
About if you take the Pfizer.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody say that you can mix and match. So I can't advise you on that. We only have the AstraZeneca coming in. We only have one coming in. That's the AstraZeneca one.
I know. So I don't. That's what I'm going. Because some people might miss about. I can take this one. So I'm not hearing. Not even in the U.S. I'm not hearing anybody saying You know, could you combine the three of them, or you miss this one?
Well,
you take-
and also a problem with that too is like certain places in the U.S. only have access. Well, most only have access to one of the vaccines.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like it's split up between distribution centers, but depending on which county, state that you live in. So the option of mixing and matching isn't there for most people at all. So it's like whatever is available from your distribution centers, what you have access to.
Unless you're rich.
Well, yeah, unless you're rich and then you just pay people or you just go to Florida.
So the one that is coming in, this is the one
Right.
dose or two dose?
2 dose.
2 dose. And that's it. But 20,000, so that's only 10,000 people.
Yes, 20,000 supposed to be. They said
Supposed
to be coming in tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, unless they do it the way the British are doing it, which was instead of holding the ones that you have for for 2 doses, because they want to get as many people covered as soon as possible.
Yeah, they
They're
inoculate
like,
40,000
you're gonna
people.
Shoot up 20,000 people,
Yeah.
and then wait for the second batch to come in.
But those in the media need
That
to
way-
come in and find out the one that they paid for, where is it coming in? They gotta.
We don't even know that.
Yeah, we don't
That's
even
a
know.
different
I think
question.
the
'Cause these ones
20,000 are,
donated.
the 20,000 that coming as donated from India.
From India.
Yeah. So it is. I am in the same boat as you, caller. Why I'm very confused as to what's happening because like statements were made by the Ministry of Health that things happen on this day and then they don't, and it
Yeah.
brings about a lot of uncertainty.
That's right.
So you're perfectly rational and reasonable for that.
Okay.
Right.
Nice show. Good.
Thank you very much, caller. We're going to take a quick commercial break, guys. But right before we do, let me read. Just run through some of the text. Someone says, I explained, or this reference to when I asked them to elaborate. I explained already the COVID math doesn't work, but no one will work with a statistician. They prefer doctor's opinion. That mind you, there's a statistician I reached. Anyway, working on it. Just people scheduled. It's just terrible. Anyway, morning, Dawn. Keep in mind, you said Bahamians obliterate governments. That does not sound forgiving to me. Secondly, the psychology behind electing the DNA is that they have something to prove, just like the PLP did when they first got elected and when the FNM got elected. They spend their first term trying to prove themselves. Okay, yeah, don't want to. They have a little bit more longer, probably. Hopefully not, but they have to be a little bit longer in the wilderness. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back on the Eye Opener.
Wait, find what you love and let it kill you. Sharp under pressure, thick and diamond. All eyes on me like a conductor. That means just play your role, you might get chime in. Wait, play the game to change the game. Word to coach, that's my hitter. Your wave is living in the moment, huh? My wave is living for the I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I know what I'm doing, baby. Say I know what I'm doing. You're talking about a revolution.
There it is.
Wait.
Morning Blend Business,
The economy,
Finance,
business,
industry,
government sector, private sector,
financial services,
tourism,
personal finance,
investing advice,
consumer issues, consumer rights.
trends and business opportunities.
Morning Blend Business, following Morning Blend every weekday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime.
There it is.
Wait, find what you love and let it kill you. Sharp under pressure, thick
And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something different. On with me this morning is Tate Adderley from Miami-Dade South Freeport and Stephen Hanna from Nassau East West South. Stephen, you still there?
The whole island, man.
I mean, there's north. I didn't count north. North is by the everything floods.
Nobody lives north.
Yeah, Yes, I lived northwestern New Providence, and it was a terrible place to live.
You live west. And like,
wait, does anybody say north? Wait,
yeah, I mean, people used to live north.
No, but no one says I live north Nassau.
Isn't that like
because it doesn't exist?
I never thought of it because technically downtown will be North Nassau, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Bay Street is pretty much downtown will be like north right now. Yeah.
Do you have that in Freeport, where someone says North Freeport?
No, we just say not even no actually
across the street.
Down the road, live by the border. I never thought about that because in like that is really weird in like people from Eleuthera. Like instead of saying up north, because they say north and awfully north and south Eleuthera, instead of saying up north, they say down north and up south, which is very bizarre to me.
Wait, backwards?
Yes. I don't understand several things in Eleuthera. I love Eleuthera, but it's the weird things they do. They just perplex my mind.
But then again, I mean, you just asked a question: are behemoths like that knowledgeable about like cardinal points and directions like that?
No, I don't. I think they are, but it's like for some reason they just say up south in Eleuthera. Now, someone I've had several people from Eleuthera tell me this, and it's just a very bizarre thing to me. I didn't know that. Like, you don't know unless you're from there, right? I think we have a caller.
I mean, technically speaking, everything is relative because
it is
right.
North doesn't actually exist; it's what we assign to it. So
true. Let's run to this text. I'm in this call. Sorry. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
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 I'm trying to reach this is Chihuahua line.
Oh, sorry. That's not the thing. He's not even on today.
No, I think is she trying to call him the show or is she?
I think she's trying to call into his show. Yeah, but Chihuahua's not even on. It's on Saturdays. Unless we
she might have been trying to talk to you. She might think one of you guys sound like Chihuahua.
All right, Steven, I see.
You know what? It's Saturday. I'll say it.
It's
guys.
Saturday. It is.
Which one of you is screaming?
All right, let me just read one more text and we're going to run to our guest. Someone says, good morning, Eye Opener. What benefit is there for Bahamian citizens and people of the Bahamas when the FNM and the PLP are constantly battling each other for the reins of governance, just to pat each other back? We need people who care, who will cause opportunities to be created for its citizens straight across the board. Hence, I believe Ms. Arinthia Komalafe is qualified, fit and equipped for the task at hand to lead such a team. Listen, I agree with the part on the tit for tat because last election cycle, like they didn't even bother campaigning. It was just these guys are so bad. The PLP is so bad. The FNM is so bad. We're not them. When it's basically
the FNM
like
didn't have the campaign actually last time.
They didn't. They really didn't. The former Christie administration campaigned for them. It was just dumpster fire after dumpster fire. Just repeated scandals.
Yeah.
And it's like the Nygaard thing with the money in the U.S. bank account for Shane Gibson, and then the thing with Fitzgerald and the emails, and it was just a crapshoot. This time around, it's kind of happening too, where they're kind of just campaigning for the PLP, right? So it's like I said. Now the part on Komalafe, I agree with Komalafe on some things. Some things I directly oppose her on. Her stance on immigration, I don't agree with at all.
Very much so, I agree.
But the thing is that most. What are we going to say?
No, I agree with you. I don't agree with her stance on immigration.
Steven, you're saying something?
Oh, I don't know her stance on many things, and to me, that's always been my issue with the DNA. That the DNA, it's difficult to hear them because they have never actually done the work of having a proper base, right? So they've aspired, and this is going to sound bad, but they've aspired for too much too quickly in an irrational sort of way. Under no circumstance has anybody risen to power overnight. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're
right?
in the wilderness for
Nobody
a while.
gets 30 seats. No, I'm not even saying that they need to be in the wilderness, but nobody gets 30 seats the first time. Why are you running? The first time they ran 40 candidates. There was no reason for that. They ran in 38 or 39. There's no reason for that. And they're going to do it again this time. Take your resources and put them into 4 constituencies that you are sure that you could win, or you have a good chance of winning. Secure 4. There's no record or anything where somebody, especially like Ms. Komalafe, who has not been the leader 4 or 5 years, right, has come from obscurity to prime minister in that shorter period, right? So one, you're trying to do something that's never been done. There's a path to victory that has been replicated and duplicated over and over outside of the country and within the country. The PLP did not win 67. They did not win 58. They didn't win 67. They didn't win numerous elections, right? Technically speaking, even in 67, when majority rule happened, they didn't. It was a tie.
Like the Miami Dolphins, who haven't won a Super Bowl since we was independent. But yes, you
right. But I say all this stuff, right? And then the FNM, when the FNM formed, they formed from the FNM was around from 72, and they didn't win till 92. But they always got a couple of seats, and you build your momentum, right? The DNA can do it quicker than that, but they need to be realistic and stop trying to say no one's going to take us serious if we don't run in Michael. No one's going to take you serious because you run in Michael. No one in Michael is going to vote for the DNA because Michael is like, those people are brainwashed. I'm saying that as a descendant of Africa. Those people are not going to vote for an unknown New Providence party because that don't have nothing to do with them. That's city folk, that's city mouse and country mouse situations. Same thing with Long Island. Unless you have somebody who is from Long Island, living in Long Island, and is already a community leader in Long Island, leave that alone. Focus on getting where you fit in.
Basically,
Freeport,
that one
New
did.
Providence have the majority of seats. Get at least a stronghold in those 2 islands, and now you have a say. When the election is over, you have 4 seats. It don't matter if you're in the majority. You could launch a wonderful opposition. Right. People will see you in action as the opposition, and then they'll say, you know what? I wish that person was representing me. And then you get 4 more seats in the next election.
Yep. You grow. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
And so it's like, I don't see how they're doing it because to everybody else, it's irrational that they're trying to run an entire slate of candidates when they don't have the funds, when they don't have the manpower, when they don't have the candidates to do it. And then they wonder why, we're losing. It's like you're losing because of hubris. And people can see that you are full of pride and arrogance to believe that this is something that can happen overnight like this. Do it the right way. It's the harder and the long way, but it's the right way to do it. And then when you get in, you can make the changes that you need to make. Y'all want to be prime minister tomorrow. And it's like nobody who is prime minister or president started yesterday. They started 20 years ago. That's all.
Burgadum Bram. One that's gonna read one text. Someone says the DNA needs to hire Anton and Dave.
Then it would certainly sink. If there's one thing that make me believe in my heart that I will never vote for the PLP is Dave. Dave is the reason why I will never vote for the PLP. My last name is Hannah. My cousin is a sitting MP, and I will never vote for the PLP because of Dave, right? Anton is just as bad. But Dave, he's do something, he's vexed my soul. But, Lots of Joke is my grand uncle. And I cannot vote for the PLP because of people like Dave.
Family members who've been former cabinet ministers and MPs. But that's another conversation. Let's do a little segue, because obviously, I think one thing we've learned from this conversation, guys, we've been having this conversation for years, right, is that government ain't gonna save us, to be quite honest. Only thing, like I say, and I've put this forward, this is my stamp-sealed belief, that governance in this country is about a race, not for your votes, but a race to the treasury. And the first person to pass that post, get access to the treasury, and then things can be straight for the next 5 years for them and their peoples and brethren and lovers and sweethearts an ex-wife and thing. Very specific there because that's what always happens. Okay, so we have a special guest who's on. I don't know if she's on. Nikita, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey, now should I say, is it Nikita? Give me if I pronounce one of the names wrong. Is it Nikita Shield Roll or Nikita Roll? Which one do you prefer?
So it's Nikita Shield Roll.
See, I can read. I got a little bit of remembrance in reading one. Great, Nikita, you're from the Cat Island Conservation and God, did I say it wrong? It's CC, Cat Island Conservation and Research
Sure,
Institute.
I'll introduce myself. Yeah. I'm Nikita Shield Roll. Some may know me as Eagle Ray Empress. I am founder and CEO of Young Marine Explorers and the Cat Island Conservation Institute.
Why did I say? Oh, I was thinking of the Climate Change and Adaptation Research. Oh, yeah, okay. Mixing things up. I'm getting old. Now, I'm sure, I'm not 100% sure. You and Steven know each other, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Steven, why did you say that? I asked you that earlier and you were like, oh,
no, I didn't respond.
Yeah, I know.
Because then we came back for the break.
You could have said something, man.
Okay.
You could have said something.
I didn't deny you. I just didn't have a chance to respond.
I just didn't have full enthusiasm.
Yeah, you know what it was? It felt like it was one of those moments of I do not recall. Anyway, whatever. No one. I don't think are people old enough to remember that. I'm not old enough to remember. Steven, were you alive?
I'm gonna screenshot the conversation to send to her, just so she knows what was said, so that she doesn't. Because you out here, you trying to ruin relationships. You trying to get between me and Nikita.
Steven
anyway,
blue ticked me and it hurt my feelings. But yeah, Nikita. So you guys at the Canada, they're doing a lot. Like I can't even say a lot. It's we've had some conversations offline, obviously. There's a lot of things in the works as it relates, obviously, to conservation, conservancy. Is it conservation or conservancy? Which one am I saying? One.
Conservation.
Great. Conservancy is not the word. Kind of like ecology. And you know what? I'm just going to not tongue-tie myself up today because they changed the dump's name. Whatever. It's relevant. It's going to be great. So, yes. So, you guys are doing an absolute lot. Can you give us just a short rundown of things that people need to be aware of what you guys are doing and how they can get involved?
Absolutely. So, I'm so excited to be here today, calling in from the heart of capital of Cat Island, Arthurstown.
Y'all have new pipes now. Y'all have all the new plumbing down there.
It's in the works, although I don't know if it's going to come all the way up to me, but we will see. We will see. But what I do want to focus on today is some of the awesome projects that we're doing. So I believe many people may have first learned of the Cat Island Conservation Institute immediately after Hurricane Dorian, when a group of thought leaders came together because we were dedicated and committed to transforming how we do things in our country, in our beautiful country. And so this has led to, I feel like the last time I was on the show, I think my parting words was like, I'm going to create a forum so that we can come together, so that we can bridge the gaps between some of the really important conversations that need to be had about our future, but as a nation, but ensuring that everyone has an equitable seat at the table. I think one of the main challenges that we see right now as a country is that we're not communicating equitably. Not everyone understands what's going on. Decisions are being made that are not fully taking into account the best interests of all concerned.
That's the Bahamian way.
And well, that was what we used to do. But I think now we have the responsibility to chart a new future. And if we're not part of creating the solution, then we're part of the problem. And so we at Young Marine Explorers and the Cat Island Conservation Institute, we had our chair, Charles Hamilton, address the United Nations last year at the 75th anniversary and commit to bold and ambitious climate solutions, and both calling the global leaders of the world to stand and to be part of creating the solutions. But it also spoke to our commitment as an institute to drive bold and ambitious climate solutions that bring everyone along. And
now, hold on now. But when you say climate solutions, usually we hear that term, They think of two things, especially the United Nations, Illuminati, climate solutions. And this is what I've been told, and people have texted into the show. When they hear climate solutions and sustainability, a lot of people relate that to, this rich white people problems. This has nothing to do with us.
Brilliant. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Because we just launched, the problem is that the language that, like you said, that takes place at the UN level is not everyone has access to that. Most Bahamians, you talk about the UN level, no context, right? And it's because we have not been educating ourselves as a Bahamian people within a global context. And so our scope of how we are seeing ourselves is really limited, especially when a lot of us are on tiny islands that have very limited interaction with the wider context, the global community. And so one of the most recent educational experience Marine Explorers is gifting to the Bahamian people and the world is called the Grouper School. And the Grouper School is a new type of classroom. It's a global classroom that meets once a month. And so we had our first session last weekend, and it starts off with a party. So we had a party here in the heart of Arthurstown. We had a bonfire, but then we were zoomed in and connected to the global community. We had people represented from Ethiopia and Kenya, parts of Canada, the United States. And together we're learning about our history. We're learning how to live, work, and play together so that we can be in a better place to make better decisions and to ensure that the people who make decisions for us, like decision makers and policymakers, that they have access to information that are directly connected to our needs.
So let's translate that to what that can do for me.
Good. Yeah. Well, so the thing is, right now, COVID-19, our tourism economy has been
It's doing great. It's great.
And
Jobs
it's
everywhere.
very, very clear that education in the Bahamas, as it has been, has a lot of challenges. We have a lot of growth to do when it comes to how we are educating ourselves. But we also, I think, have to be very frank that we have not been educating Bahamians to enter into other industries outside of tourism, really. And so this is where we need to go. And so what the Grouper School is, it is a list of monthly educational experiences that train people to be able to tap into new career paths that are directly
when you say career paths, like what are we talking about? Are we talking about fishing? Is it going to help me get a dive certification?
So what the get across is that we have to educate Bahamians differently.
Yes.
And so this is what the Grouper School does. So for example, also this week, the Cat Island Conservation Institute has started its first Bahama Science Diver certification. And so this is specifically education to prepare Bahamians to be employed within the blue economy. So we're training a cohort of Cat Islanders, many of which who have not graduated from high school. We have a mix of high school students and also community members. Some of them are fishers and farmers and local government representatives, hoteliers. So just people in our community are going to be trained how to become scuba divers, be trained how to do scientific research under the water, and then once certified, they will be able to be employed as community marine scientists who work alongside myself or other Bahamian scientists doing research that will enable us to build new blue economy. The challenge is, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying that when you talked about the research part, it made me think, I don't know if anybody has been following this, right? There was this recent article that came out. I can't remember which publication put it out. But it was stating that they now have new evidence to suggest that the Bahamas was in fact inhabited far longer than we thought it was, right? Because they found human remains and charcoal stuff inside some of the blue holes And I can't remember which was it. Was either a school out of Miami or a school
Texas A&M.
Texas. Yes, that's what I was going to say. And when I saw it, I remember having a conversation with one of the professors at University of the Bahamas from the Small Island Sustainability complex, was stating that a lot of that research that usually gets done when people come into the country, collect these samples and stuff, leave the country, and then obviously publish their findings and everything, and all the grant money and everything just never, none of it ever impacts any of the local population. I saw legislation being proposed by the Attorney General pretty late in the cycle for him to be doing this, to somewhat try to address some of these things. But I wanted to know, is any of this going to start like building capacity where the Bahamas can be doing these things internally versus having to have external persons come in and basically do all the research and just boop, gone with all the knowledge?
100%. So this is part of our reclamation of the ocean. You know, I was speaking to a friend last night and I was saying the Bahamas, the situation that we're in as Bahamians, we've been given a Lamborghini, but we don't have the car keys. You know? And
nor do we know how to balance a clutch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so where we need to go, you know, with the ocean right now, the UN has launched, this is the first year of the UN Ocean Decade, which means the entire world are focusing and tuning into how do we explore the oceans, how do we protect the oceans, how do we learn what the oceans have and ensure that the oceans can continue to sustain human populations. Well, our country is pretty much all ocean. The opportunity to tap into and to be global leaders when it comes to, you know, really driving and transforming how we as Bahamians live, work, and play. And I think this is where science comes in. But what and how we are preparing Bahamians to tap into the ocean sciences is by doing educational programs through, you know, the Grouper School, or for example, the development of this new trade, such as the Certified Community Marine Scientist. It's about acknowledging that, yes, we got major gaps in our learning and that not everyone who walks into the classroom is going to be walking into the classroom with the same reading comprehension, writing comprehension. But that doesn't mean that they're not capable of learning. What it means is that we have to do a more effective job and be more patient and be more understanding to realize that we need to help people all get on the same page so we can effectively solve our problems. Because the squabbling that we're doing is not getting us anywhere. And I think education and science really is a very powerful tool it means we have not had access to, which is why people always come into our country and have been leaving. All the studies, the amount of research that has been done about the Bahamas that we are oblivious to, you know, is unacceptable. But we have to get into the position where we can do that work.
But it then raises the question too, even if we do build the capacities, how do we get, not necessarily how, but you got to get the stories out there, right? I don't know if anybody here, any of you guys know who Joseph Spence is?
James Constable.
You mean amongst us?
Yes. You know he is,
Yes.
right? Okay, great. So, Stephen, you know, Nikki, do you know who Joseph Spence is?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, Joseph Spence, Stephen, you want to explain? You're probably better at this than me. You're a better storyteller.
Oh, I mean, Joseph Spence is a world famous guitarist that died in obscurity and essentially poverty in the Bahamas. He's a Bahamian, but the way he played the guitar is still taught in
Harvard
places like America and stuff, right? Because they're like, it was so different and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's this great world-renowned musician, but
there was an article just on him, I think, recently.
Yes, and it highlights a bigger problem too, right? Because what happened to him happened a lot. Well, for him, like Stephen said, what he did was he used to play the guitar like a percussive instrument. So he'd beat the guitar while at the same time strumming it. And it's in the Smithsonian. His works are in the Smithsonian because an American came to the Bahamas. They recorded basically him on his porch. They stayed with him for like 2 or 3 months with his family and recorded the guitar, which is how they have this like body of work that represents him. I don't think he was ever compensated for it either, nor was his family, to my knowledge. And from what I was told from persons who knew of who he was during that time, they said he was a security guard at one of the local primary schools, and unfortunately did die in obscurity. But like his works live on in the Smithsonian. He's taught in a class at Harvard, and it's not a unique story either, right? We also have the issue with if any of you ever heard, I hate using this term, but it's the only term I can think of. A lot of the Negro spirituals we've had that you hear in America, right? The Bahamas had its own variation on those. Every Caribbean island did.
Well, the Beach Boys' number 2 hit is a Bahamian folk song.
Wow, really?
What is it? The Sloop John B is their number 2 hit. Like that's their second biggest song inside their career, and it literally, if you go on the page, it'll say it's a Bahamian folk song. And
So
I discovered.
This is a problem, and so this is what I mean. We are not the only ones who are addressing this, but this is a lot of the work that we at the Cat Island Conservation Institute are seeking to address. And I'm actually giving a lecture on Monday at University of North Carolina, Charlotte, titled Beyond the Walls of the Ivory Tower, Perspectives on Equitable Community-Based Research. And for not just the Bahamas, but all countries in the Global South. When we say the Global South, primarily, I'm referring to the Caribbean, South America, countries in Africa.
Every place, not Europe and America.
Yes. And what has happened in all the countries that have suffered from colonialism, the way that science or research has been driven has been very exploitive. And so we are now in this stage where we have to redistribute this balance. And that means as a nation, we have to become better at creating boundaries. And, and this is something that the Bahamian government and the new Department of Environment and Protection has, I celebrate that we do have this new act that they've put in place for protecting biodiversity and traditional knowledge, because this is one of the ways that we can protect our knowledge. But where there's the gap is that we now need to build the capacity in country so that we can
take advantage of that,
understand what we have.
Right.
Because when I remember hearing the Attorney General talk about the legislation, the first question came to my mind. I mean, the legislation sounds good, but how is this enforceable? Like, how are you going to...
So one thing that was ruffled a lot of feathers in the international community was that the government did put a ban on the exports of genetic material out of the country. And that was significant because what had been happening prior to this act being put in place is that people were coming, taking clippings of animals, plants, taking them back to laboratories, doing their experiments on it, identifying the genetics, and then creating medication or other things that they're making, millions of dollars on, and that there was no shares, benefits coming back to the Bahamas. And so this is part of an international, global effort to protect biodiversity and ensure that the resources of local communities, indigenous communities, are not being exploited by foreigners.
So you know what that means, right, Stephen? Oh,
Sorry.
wow. I do not know how you got that far. I was just... Yeah, okay. Stephen
We were talking
Cody.
about conspiracy theories.
No,
earlier, so I apologize.
There is... Okay, let me read some of the texts. I don't know how Stephen got there. Okay, you can text and you'll say these two people did at 422-GR96. That's 42247. One of these I can't read. I can't even censor that one. So anyway, these other ones, I think this is talking about something we were speaking about earlier. It said the difference between chess and football are the rules. The government may not save us, but they can destroy us. Rules matter, so rule makers do. Yes, as we just talked about earlier too. They do. Rule makers do matter. And the rules do matter. Let's say one another related conspiracy theory. I love the conspiracy theory topic. Sorry. Okay. They said people think Bill Gates has an agenda to wipe out African people so the vaccines will kill and sterilize us. The vaccine won't. I can't spend the research a bit on the AstraZeneca one. I don't think that's gonna wipe us out. Can't speak for the others because I haven't done the research, so I can't say. But no, I largely don't believe that's gonna happen. But segueing back to what we're talking about now, about this biodiversity and what people really want to hear is jobs and opportunities, and money making.
So the thing is, yes, we need jobs and opportunities, but what we need more
is capacity.
Us giving you jobs is we need to make sure that Bahamians have the skills to be part of the innovation of these new jobs, right? Because we keep on asking for jobs. Well, they give us jobs, but we got to be more picky.
I probably should have used a better term. I should say jobs in a new. Let me not say jobs. A new industry, essentially, right? A place for some of the brains of the country to stay rather than take flight.
Absolutely, and this is where I think research and science is going to be very powerful. But it's about often when we say science, we say research. Most Bahamians think, well, that's not even something I can even have access to. And what I'm saying is that yes, it is. We just have to teach you differently because the way that you've been taught was not effective. And so
you have to have been taught first to be taught. But yeah, continue.
And so this is part of, I think we have to really holistically explore what it looks like, redefining what it looks like for us to live, work, and play on these islands. I often say when I'm talking about the work that the Cat Island Conservation Institute does, I think education in the past has really educated Bahamians to be of service to those who are coming and visiting our islands, to live, work, and play. But now is our opportunity to redefine that and educate Bahamians so that we are capable of living, working, playing, and flourishing on our islands, knowing that working on our islands may also include being of service to others. But it's about reframing so that we feel and can really appreciate all that we have around us. But because so many people are in crisis mode, you can't appreciate, you don't have a minute to breathe, to catch yourself because you're struggling.
Yeah, and then also too with which is our education system, I call it the National Babysitting Service.
But I don't even want us to focus on.
No, I know. I'm just saying when you talked about reforming, that's a part of the conversation as well.
So this is a really cool example of how we think of education 9 to 3 in a rectangle box. Throw that idea of education out the window. Throw it out. So, for example, in April, I'm really excited. I'm working with the Bahamas Development Bank. We're going to be putting together a think tank. All right. And it's going to be a think tank that's open to every single person, focusing around exploring, learning together what the oceans have to offer us. Right. Because the fact of the matter is most Bahamians don't really know much about the ocean. Most people in the world don't know much about the ocean. So we have an opportunity to learn together. And so the bank on the 13th and 14th of April, we're going to have a virtual think tank that is going to invite stakeholders, even if you've never graduated from high school, even if you don't know how to swim, you don't even think you like the ocean. Everyone from PhDs to janitresses and everyone else in between, we're inviting people to come out and join us. And to be part of learning together so that we can then together come up with how we're going to create this new industry. I think one of the greatest challenges that we have as a nation is that we're struggling to imagine a future for us beyond what we're currently living in. And so the only way that we can imagine a shared future is for us to come together, learn together, have fun and create together, and then let that inspire and inspire both the individual, and we have so many tools available to us with the internet.
All right, we have some text coming in. Some people say one of the biggest problems here is we don't have up-to-date, state-of-the-art laboratories in the Bahamas, and if we do, they are few and underfunded, especially in education.
Yeah,
I think so. Continue. Sorry.
This is a big challenge. You know, the government, 2% of our national GDP should actually be invested into research. And this is from a UNESCO study. And so that, you know, and we're not seeing that. So no, and this is not just us in the Bahamas, this is also regionally, it's a problem. I think Trinidad might have the highest, and it's probably about, I think, 0.06% of what their GDP, perhaps, don't quote me, or 0.006. But the challenge is we're not alone in this, but we have to start making it a priority, because if we are not, you know, think about every single time, I mean, there's always critique on our education and the quality of services that Bahamians are able to contribute into the workforce. This is a challenge that we have to lovingly acknowledge and then lovingly move forward.
We can build sidewalks, though.
Oh yeah, we're good at that.
And so.
No, but you're right. You're right. It is something, and to the credit of I don't know what's been happening, obviously, since COVID started, but I know that they've made a push with the National Training Agency as well to address some of the soft skills and the persons we need in the job industry. So there has been some movement, and as well as the thing of, let's call it the aspirational promise, because budgets will dictate how that works. With the free education, oh, someone's mic. Oh, okay, great. Someone mute your mic. Okay, yeah, but the thing with free education and University of the Bahamas and BTVI. So Nikita, I think there is some movement in the direction. So there's hope, right? There is obviously political will and interest in doing so. Not that you need that to succeed, but I'm just saying there is some movement in that direction. Are you still there, Nikita?
I'm still here, and there is, and I think this is where it's really important that we focus on the progress that we are making, but hold that vision fixed on where it is we need to go. And This is really where I believe the civil society and the private sector, we have to be the ones holding the long-term vision. We understand intimately, it sounds like before I joined the call, there was a lot of conversation about political cycles and the challenges that we have with governance at the moment in our country. And that is something that we have to work through. We have to be very intentional about working through. But I believe as private citizens, whether you're in the private sector or civil society, we have to be intentional about how we are contributing and how we are part of transforming and moving our country forward.
Hear me out on this, right? And Stephen, you can tell me, because you seem to be very politically in tune. I always said if I ever ran for to be a member of parliament, right? Which one day I said that I would, but I don't think I said it because the platform that I would support is very radical compared to what's the normal status quo here. And my objective would have been to be something like a Bernie Sanders. Obviously, I'm not as Bernie Sanders as Bernie Sanders is, but I mean that in the sense that when he ran in 2016, he pushed the agenda away from the usual talking points of abortion, marriage rights, and all those things in the United States directly. Oops, someone's mic. Someone mute their mic. Okay, someone's mic isn't. Prime Minister's. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. But yes, he pushed the agenda, the agenda away from that. Not to say those are bad things, but he pushed it towards issues of trade, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, issues of the trade.
As well as socialist issues.
He did, yes. That were never a part of the U.S. Discussion for presidency. And it became key and central things that still are issues that are being addressed.
It wasn't that it was never.
All right, it wasn't a headliner. It surely wasn't a headliner. It was forbidden.
No, because I mean that's how they got Social Security.
Well, yeah, right. But the United States was a different place then, right? They didn't have a massive trade deficit. They didn't have the issues of basically China. That's geopolitics. Right. But I'm just saying the situation wasn't precisely the same. So to talk about globalization in the context that he was addressing it was taboo because Republicans adamantly supported anything to do with globalization, ship out the jobs, make production cheaper, let's have cheaper products in the country. Democrats were silent on the issue, or even behind the scenes took money from corporations and pushed legislation to accelerate the process, which led to a lot of manufacturing jobs leaving the United States. Now, regardless of the politics of it, I'm just saying, What it did is it pushed the needle to talk about the issues, which became key issues in the Rust Belt of the United States. The problem, I think, in the Bahamas is we don't even address issues when we have national discussions. It's literally nonsense and bickering between two political parties, like an old married couple that can't get a divorce because they can't make up their minds and will sweet out all the time. And they live in the same house, and everybody in the neighborhood has to hear their business on a consistent basis. It isn't moving and progressing anything.
So this is I 100% agree with you. This is our challenge: is that our emotions get so caught up in.
Yes.
Listen, I think they're really important. However, when we're talking about really meeting the needs of our country,
So I was going to ask, like the point what I was getting at was just like you talk about the concerted effort is how do we inject this conversation of the actual needs of the people in terms of soft skills, hard skills as well, and basically expanding our capacity. How do you inject that into the conversation that becomes an issue of national debate?
Well, so I think it's a matter of that we have to do this together. And so this is what, I think the work that we're doing here on Cat Island is a really great example. The reason why we're training when we're having these classes, these science classes with our community members, is because we want members in our community to understand the scientific method and the process of really critical thinking, of us being able to identify, look objectively at what is, and dissect it so that we can get better information on how we move forward. And so when we can, as community members, get data points, collect information that is not based on emotions and feelings, but is based on objectively really just what's happening on the ground, and we can demonstrate that, I think that will facilitate and help for local communities throughout the Bahamas to have a voice. Because the challenge is that we, local communities, cannot right now and do not have the skills to effectively communicate our needs to decision makers. And taking it up to the next level, because our decision makers are struggling to get on the ground, read and feel of what's specifically happening in Arthurstown, what's happening in Long Island. We have ideas, but to say specifically, it's really hard for us to quantify that. That means when they go upstairs to the United Nations, where all the world leaders meet, we're not 100% in the best position to advocate for our needs. And so science, the scientific method, is going to be a tool, I 100% believe this, that will transform our lives as Bahamian people once we're better able to communicate our needs. And then when we really understand the issues, we can advocate for what's going on. But the problem is that because there's so many data gaps, no one really understands what's happening. It's hard for us to have grounded conversations.
Stephen, you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I agree. It's difficult to have. It's better if you have data in your hand, because then everything else is just anecdotal and perspective. So
isn't that how we? Okay,
I
I'm not gonna make
totally
that joke.
agree with that. That's how we got where we are.
Yes,
we're dealing with limited perspectives.
My cousin.
Now, my question is: how do we get communities to decide what it is that they need, right? Versus what they, because a lot of times people think, okay, the same thing with what Don said earlier, where it's like, we need jobs, but jobs are infrequent. They're subject to a lot of different things. So what you really need is a way to take care of yourself. You need something sustainable that could last you for your lifetime or doesn't destroy your community and all these different things, right? How do we get people to that? Because I know data will tell them, all right, education, if you have this level of education, your life is this much better. But that doesn't necessarily tell them specifically what it is that they need or how they might go about getting that, or how might they merge the new and the old. Like, how do we get to that point?
So what I can share is an approach that we're implementing here in Cat Island. And I think what's important for us to realize is that we are here in, unprecedented situation. And our these are not my words, actually, this is definitely a quote from Haile Selassie at his UN address in 1963.
Selassie, I'm a boy.
Paraphrasing it. But he speaks to the fact that, our education has ill prepared us for where we are, and that is true. And now we get to reimagine that. So here on Cat Island, we're reimagining with our community. This is the process that we're beginning to implement. Becoming clear on what our needs are. And this begins with, and this is where I always go back to the science, because once we had finished training our team here of community marine scientists with science skills, then we together as a community go out and start asking the questions. Because now we have the tools and the skill set to be able to collect data on whatever question we have, right? We know how to do that. And once we do that, see, the difference is in the past, people have come into our communities, collected data, and presented what they think they need based on their external interpretation of the data. But when we, the community members, collectively collect the data, and then we then become the interpreters of it, maybe with external collaboration on understanding the data, the power dynamics shift because we, the community, understand really what's going on, and then we have the ability, the vocabulary to clearly articulate our needs.
Here's the thing that happened now that you mentioned the thing of external forces coming in, is we've had moments, I shouldn't say incidents, moments where I think it was the IDB would come to make a presentation at the University of the Bahamas, and the data points, a lot of the persons who worked in the industry that they were presenting this topic on, right after the presentation was over, pointed out, like, this is wrong, this is factually incorrect. This data point you're using is 10 years old, it is false. And that wasn't the one and only time that happened. I think it was doing something with the blue economy as well. And a lot of conservationists were there, and local activists who pointed out a litany of mistakes in the report. It was another incident. I'm not going to say the name of the institution, but it's an American institution that deals with credit ratings and such, who also made a presentation on a litany of the data points they were using to determine the cost of doing certain things in the country were just flat out wrong. I couldn't believe what I was watching as I was in the room. And it lends to a point when you say that if the person's in the community, or if an external force comes in, grabs what they want to grab out of it, and then throws out a story and says, this is your reality, I've seen it firsthand where it's malarkey. And the unfortunate part is like, I think sometimes these things make it into the decision-making process of lawmakers, not just in the Bahamas, but regionally as well, of incorrect information off old data points from some of these institutions.
I think what's so important for us to acknowledge is that we live in a data deficient region. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a book that in our group or school party last week we're reading together. So our history section. This book is called Unicorn in the Bahamas, and it talks about Lady Dundas and the reform school, if you will, or the finishing school that she ran to train spongers with what they said 5 metaphorical thumbs on each hand into essentially the best servants and that can support the thriving lives of what would have been the colonial elite at the time. And so that was not very long ago, right? With how education in the Bahamas was talked about. And I think that context is important. So we cannot beat ourselves up because we're not good enough. We've got to acknowledge where we are and say, okay, let's work together so we move this forward in a way that ensures that everyone everyone's needs are being taken care of.
All right, we're almost out of time. I'm just going to speed run through some of these texts. Someone says, even if we can't dedicate that into the Bahamas primarily, and high schools, secondary schools, or secondary have sufficient structures and are funded labs, because it's hard to get fully into science and research without being able to properly teach what scientists do. And for that, we need labs. Some of that's being addressed. The University of the Bahamas with the Small Island Sustainability Center, they have some labs that they built. Obviously, the pandemic hit right after things got off the ground. But anyway, someone also says, sorry, I hate to point this out. You guys talk about data but ignore what is clearly wrong with the COVID data. We get data and ignore how to interpret it.
That's also a skill, though. We have to learn how to interpret data. And so I think this is all part of it.
Yes, someone else says, Nikita's right. I think we have to start with what we have. It's not much, but that's no excuse not to start. And one other person says, this person also elaborated some more. I didn't read this part. They said she's totally correct with the data gaps on scientific method. If we based our moves on scientific method more, we'd be far more progressive. That billing at UB, Dawn, is complete trash. Oh, God. Okay. That's what the person texted said. So they're agreeing with you and your point. Texter, I hear you. We're going to do some things. We're almost out of time. Any final words, Nikita?
Yeah, so what I will share about the laboratory, whoever said that, 100% agree. And I'm so excited to share that we're establishing the first community conservation laboratory here in Cat Island, where our community members are the scientists who do the work. And so over the next few out of our community and, using these lessons to inspire, what also is possible throughout the nation.
All right, Tate, any final words?
I really like this last portion of the show. I think the point that resonates with me most is that we are a data efficient society, and I think that's a huge problem because based on that, we need solutions, but without solutions, I think that empiricism needs to influence making the changes, and I think that the initiatives that Nikita talked about today are very much so going to help the progress of the Bahamas. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Steven?
Hey.
Any final words?
Yeah. No, I have nothing to add.
Great. All right. So Nikita, let the people know, how can they reach out? How can they get involved? What can they do?
Awesome. Yes. So if you are interested in connecting, definitely follow us on social media at YME242 and at CICI Bahamas. You can also follow me personally at Cat Island Kita. And you definitely want to be at our next Grouper School party. So that is going to be March 27th, I believe it is. But the school notes for this past week's class and the recording of our party, we had a DJ at school, DJ and a fire. So the group of schools where you want to be, follow our pages, and you'll be be part of our learning community.
All right. One last text someone says is the World Bank decided what we borrow and how we borrow money. One thing I want to leave off and say when we talk about the data deficiency, which I've seen, is that more often than you think, we talked about the gender wage gap in the Bahamas. And when I saw the numbers of how much they purported Bahamians were making, which is closer to $40,000 than it was to $22,000, I thought the numbers were a little weird, although some people were chiming in about how horrible the gender wage gap is and blah, 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 blah. But then when I actually saw the Department of Statistics put out their report, which showed that it was like on average $12,000 less that Bahamians on average were making than this external report that I'm not going to name the agency that put it out had, it was just like the data just did not support any of the things that they were making inside their report, and it was just erroneous. Whatever. But we're out of time now. This has been the Eye Opener, your weekly dose of something different. And what's the thing we always say now? Yes, with many hands build a home, many hearts build a school, but it takes many Bahamians engaged like you and me to build a Bahamas.
There it is.
Wait, find what you love and let it kill you. Sharp under pressure, thick and